Ah, there we go. No, not the Medusa's head. Or is it another Cyclops? Ah, there it is, yes. Good old Hydra. Not bad. Okay, looking good. Welcome to World of Monsters. I'll be your host, Monster Master Arthur. And today, we discuss the Hydra. So, the Hydra, or also known as the Lernaean Hydra, or the Hydra of Lernia, has its origins in various parts of this world, the lesser known of which are 1. Africa, that's right, where it was known as a 7-headed water monster that kept the river waters flowing, and people would bring offerings to it. Then there's also another variation within the biblical world, where it is described more as a many-headed dragon. But the most well-known roots go back to Greece. The Hydra was the offspring of the gods Typhon and Echidna, or Echidna. Typhon was a towering monstrosity with the torso of a human and the bottom half of snake coils. And Echidna was known as being half serpent and half maiden. Great candidates to the reptilian shapeshifter conspiracy. These two deities were known as the parents of monsters, and rightfully so, as they created many, one among which was the Hydra. So the best known tale today dates back to Hercules. Hercules and his adventures. You see, after Hercules regained sanity, King Eurystheus ordered Hercules to perform 10 labors for his immortality, which in the end summed up as 12. 12 somewhat completed quests. So the story of the Hydra enters at the second labor, the second task of Hercules. He was to slay the Lernaean Hydra, the Hydra placed at the lake of Lernia by Hera, 1, to kill Hercules, and 2, to guard the entrance to the underworld. The Hydra was known to seek shelter in a cave next to the lake. When Hercules arrived, he fired flaming arrows to draw the Hydra out. He then proceeded to attack the Hydra by slicing off its heads. But as we all know, what happened when he sliced off a head? 2 more would appear. Every head that was sliced, 2 more would replace that area. What a wicked creature that was. But it had a great weakness, because only one of those heads and necks was immortal. And if that one was sliced off and kept from regenerating, the Hydra would be dead. Hercules called upon his nephew Iolaus for help. Iolaus came up with an idea to scorch the severed necks, to scorch them with heat or fire, so that the double heads would not grow back. So here we enter a great act of teamwork, as Hercules would chop or cut off one head, and Iolaus would follow with a brand or torch to smolder the neck and keep it from regenerating. And so they would continue on until Hera noticed that Hercules and his nephew were winning. So what did she do? She sent out a big crab to attack Hercules. But Hercules simply stomped on the creature and killed it, the distraction being only very minor. He cut off the final head, the immortal head, with a golden sword of Athena, and later dipped his weapons and arrows into that head to use the poison from the Hydra for his future battles. Another version of the story speaks of Hercules severing one of the heads off and dipping his sword into it to use the poison to cut off the remaining heads and to kill the creature. Hera, angry, placed the Hydra into a blue vault, a deep blue vault in the sky, which was the constellation of Hydra, and placed the failure of a giant crab into the formation of the constellation we know today as Cancer. King Eurystheus denied this task completed as Hercules received help from his nephew. Hence the total tasks of Hercules being 12, as originally it was supposed to be 10, but in this one he received help, and another he received gold, which he was not supposed to. If you ask me, that's just more bragging rights for Hercules. Silly humans. Silly half-god, half-humans. Also, the Hydra and similar beasts appear in Sumerian, Babylonian, and Assyrian mythology. Babylonians were actually the first who originally concepted the constellation, which later was associated by the Greeks as the Hydra, even though the constellation has only one head. Let's jump into the appearance of this crazy creature. One poet of history says 9 heads, another says 50, another 100. It is safe to say that you can create your Hydra with anywhere from 9 to 100 heads. You know what? Let's just set it to 3. Or let's just say it starts with 1 and go from there. If the Hydra doesn't battle and lose another head, do the other heads grow back into the body? Or will it remain with all those heads? Say it has 100 heads from a big battle. Will it remain the rest of its days with 100 heads? Something to think about. Will it become lazier because of all that extra flesh? So now, the body. You can have a lot of fun with it. Give all the Hydras hoods, like spitting cobras. It does spit as well. Traditionally and classically, it is more serpent bodies, but later, 4-legged, dragon-like or reptilian-like bodies appeared, and even dragonoid bodies with wings, to multiple-legged bodies, 10-legged to be precise, with a carapace or chitin-covered body like those of crustaceans. The heads being represented as being serpent-like, dragon-like, dog-like, and even beaked faces have appeared in all sorts of artwork out there. Size. It was not really known as being huge. I would say 300 to 500 pounds. A bit bigger than a human, but not to the extremes. But I would say because of the nature of the concept and the stories of it hunting down and eating people from nearby towns, I'd go from it having the size of today's pythons to gigantic 60-foot tall concepts. 100 feet tall, that would be pushing it, but 100 feet in lengths, I think that's quite feasible. And then don't forget, there's always exceptions. There's dwarf sizes, and then there's those big bosses. So once in a while, you can create that extremely gigantic kaiju-size Hydra if you like. Color, we have extreme varieties. We got greens, browns, blacks, whites, patterns, all sorts of patterns. Just look at rattlesnakes, look at coral snakes, look at all sorts of snakes and reptilians out there to get creative. You can have keeled scales, you can have rounded scales, you can have spikes all over the body, or just a line of spikes going down the spine. How about a tail, 2 tails, 3 tails at the end? Anatomy, we know that it breathes a toxic type of gas out, toxic breath, so I would imagine it would have large lungs, maybe a grilled sort of hold membrane in front of its salivary ducts that when it squeezes it in and pushes it out with the air, it creates a mist of gas. Of course, venom glands, a scale or chitin armored body. Many heads, meaning many brains, but are all the brains complete brains? Or does only one brain contain all the segments, all the parts of the brain that give it its immortality? Maybe the other brains are only partial organs, creating only instinctual behaviors within those other heads. It has been said that it had a poisonous tail as well. Venom glands in the tail, or just venom lining the whole body. There are creatures that use venom from its mouth or poison from its saliva to line its body and cover its body with those poisons. Maybe that's what the Hydra does. Maybe it mists its whole body before battle. So I would consider the whole body as being poison lined and covered. Remember, it has toxic blood as well, so you want to avoid pretty much any part of the Hydra hitting your skin or open wounds. As with most reptiles, the females are probably larger and the males possibly more brilliantly colors to attract the females, or having some sort of doula or abilities in their upper regions to attract females, or possibly even the colored tail that they wiggle, something like that. As we've mentioned with the head's regrowth ability, we're not talking regeneration here, we're talking about full regrowth. So we can speculate that these necks, not the entire creature, but only the necks and the heads, contain cells with extreme regrowth capabilities. We're talking 20 times faster than the regrowth of a skink or gecko's tail. You know, when you pull off the tail of a skink, it grows back within a little bit more than a month. So the Hydra's entire heads and organs grow back roughly 20 times faster than that. Imagine that craziness. I want to make some of that anatomy into my body. Classification: reptilian beast, or reptilian crustacean hybrid, or even reptilian crustacean mammalian hybrid. Different combinations of those hybrids as we've seen in artwork, but in the end it is a beastie.
And there you have it, folks, all about the Hydra, part 1. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below, and click anywhere on the screen to watch part 2. Part 2 of all about the Hydra!